Welcome everybody to Support Together, Fill Your Cuppa podcast. It's season 2, episode 18. And we have a very special guest today. We have Mrs. Susie Donnelly, Susie Campbell. Formerly Donnelly before she got married.
Yeah.
One of our S2 mummies here, and she's on my left-hand side. And we have Una Mary.
Hiya.
On my right. I'm Mrs. O. And you're very welcome, Susie.
Thank you very much. Very welcome to join you lovely ladies and be part of this. It's a long time in the making.
Yeah.
It is. We planted a seed, I don't know, many months ago with you.
This is 6 months ago.
Yeah.
We watered and tended that seed for a long time.
We did.
Yeah.
So it's just literally a conversation, an honest conversation, and we'll just see where it goes.
Yeah.
So
do you want to tell us a wee bit about
hold
yourself?
on tight.
Yeah, my name's Susie. I am a mum of 2, married woman, living up this side of the country. I'm originally from Mertown, so low into this area.
Oh, you're
so
a below one like myself.
long way from home, but still in Tyrone. Still managed to go to the complete opposite side of Tyrone. So yeah, mother of 2. Come to the girls, it has to be going on now 18 months. Part of Support Together, and come through to you after having my second daughter. I have 2 girls, Ava and Katie, and they are 3 and nearly 2. So nice and close together.
2 wee
Very
dogs.
close.
2 little ladies, little hens as I call them. They're 2 little mad, funny, buzzy little chirpy women.
Oh.
But yes.
And you said there that you came to Support Together 18 months ago. Can you tell us the for whys?
I contacted Support Together 18 months ago. I had come through having the 2 girls through a pandemic. So my both were pretty much lockdown babies. Ava was more, so I fell pregnant in June 2020. So right slam bang in the middle of a pandemic. So everyone's lives had changed massively. We were in lockdown and everything in my life was impacted through lockdowns, and my job became remote. Everything just closed in on me, and a pregnancy that again revolved around pretty much closed doors on my own from the get-go, working from home on my own, appointments on my own. Everything was very much closed in, and that sort of followed through into my second pregnancy. I have been violently ill through my first pregnancy, but sort of managed to get through it. Fell pregnant with Katie, and very quickly was very, very ill very, very quickly with vomiting, nausea, and by about 7 weeks, I was admitted to hospital for severe dehydration and other complications that arise from Hyperemesis Gravidarum. If you want to give it the full, you just call it HG, the full title. I was very, very unwell, and that went the whole way through that pregnancy and struggled through it. And my husband, Brian, he was by my side through everything. He's always been the most amazing support system to me and the girls. But 2 rough pregnancies in lockdowns, trying to muddle my way through. Had always had anxiety through most of my life. I have a really bad phobia that has hindered me a lot through my life. So anxiety, panic attacks has followed me through most of my life.
Okay.
And had the girls, and just things were just getting darker and darker and darker until it got to the stage where I hit total rock bottom and Support Together.
How did you hear about Support Together, Susie?
It was actually through social media. It was through a family member who kept sharing things. And I just kept seeing it and thinking, God, isn't that a wonderful charity? I didn't realise how bad I was. I didn't know how far down I was at that time. But I just kept seeing, and who are they? And they're lovely, bright and cheerful looking, and they're happy looking, and I'm miserable, and how can we, it just looked so approachable and warm and kind, and I just kept seeing it, and it just seemed to keep popping up at the right time. So yes, I contacted yourselves, didn't have it in me to even pick up the phone at that stage, so sent, I think it was a Facebook message. Yeah, so that was
the first seed of you connecting in. So the power of social media, there is a lot of advantages. We know there is disadvantages, but I suppose today we want to highlight the advantages of it, and how somebody's sharing a post of ours. Look, there's you sitting here today with us in recovery, nearly in discovery that you're blossoming. And that's to do with somebody sharing a post of ours.
Mm-hmm.
And as you say, it kept popping up.
At the right time.
Even now I keep sharing support together and I'm like, there could be somebody else out there where I was. Hopefully not, but reality.
Yeah.
Hopefully they might see it and it might help them to.
And it takes time to build up the confidence to send a message.
Definitely. And we go back to what Mandy said in one of the podcasts. The phone is heavy.
Oh, yeah.
When you are mentally and emotionally unwell and drained, lifting the phone up is not easy. Yeah. So there's where the option is to text in, to message in. And often we get the messages are normally done in midnight or in the middle of the night, that mummies tend to do that when they're up with a feed or just feeling that that's normally when it's a dark night. Yeah. The darkness is more heavier on you because you're there with your own thoughts.
Yeah.
So you've talked about being very unwell. Mm-hmm. So when we hear people talking about very unwell, straight away when we're thinking of the perinatal umbrella, people assume it's postnatal depression, antenatal depression, anxiety, birth trauma. But what you suffered with, there is a kind of a soft name to it that they would call the Princess Kate sickness.
Yes. Hyperemesis.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, there's not very many people know they've heard of it because of Princess Kate.
Yeah.
But I would have been, whenever I had it myself, you would have got, oh God, is that what Princess Kate had? Mm-hmm. Oh, you're just like the princess. And you almost had that. And because hers was glossed over quite a bit, the real raw reality of it never was seen. And she just appeared on steps looking beautiful and it was all. Whereas for me, that was not the reality of it. I had to trawl through 2 pregnancies, get into a second pregnancy, end up in A&E in a very bad state. Have doctors seriously concerned about me to the fact that it led to other complications. Doctors were seeing levels of me of ketones and electrolytes and liver damage and everything. And they were like, at that stage when I went to A&E, it was actually my husband, Brian. I kept saying, no, I don't need help. I don't need any, nobody can help me. First pregnancy, they just kept saying, this is what it is.
Sickness, yeah.
Morning sickness.
25 weeks, 30 weeks, the whole way through with Ava.
All day long.
All day, all night, nausea, vomit, and just never stopped. And the smells and the taste and everything, it just consumed me. I couldn't think of nothing else. But first pregnancy, you kind of have time in your hands. You can recoup. We were in lockdown, so it had an advantage of being able to hide away. And then second pregnancy, I was back at work for a few months in between. And had to fight on. I knew myself I needed to get out to work. I needed to get a few months of trying to. I thought if I got back out to work, I would get me back. Yeah, the old me back. I'd be fine. I'd be grand. Go and put your uniform on. Go out. Get out to work. But no, probably highlighted again just how bad. And when people actually see me, and I couldn't hide it as well in the second pregnancy of how ill I was. And then when the hospital admissions come and. Just wasn't a nice time to be in hospitals during lockdowns. The first time I was admitted to A&E, and my husband literally pulled me out of the bed, put me in the car, and nobody's going to be able to help me. Nobody's going to want to, I was only 7 weeks pregnant. So
that's how early the sickness.
7 weeks, at that stage I was already totally floored, and he pulled me out of the bed and literally put me in the car. He couldn't come into A&E with me, so he rung ahead and said who was coming in and this and that, because I couldn't even speak. And I got into A&E and I just kept saying about my husband, and they were like, are you trying to admit your husband? It was taking every part of me to stand there at that desk and shout into them. And
you're shouting in through a screen, of course, as well.
In a mask with glasses, which I never realised until we had to wear a mask.
Steamy.
Yeah, you're feeling sick and you can smell your breath and it's just awful. So sat in A&E, and little by little, doctors started coming out, and it was the middle of COVID, so I had COVID, but it was COVID free. But because I was still within the isolation period, they treated me as a COVID patient. So they put me in a room on my own, put all the injections into me, anti-sickness injections. They put IV drips into me, tried to see if that would bring me around. Usually that's enough to get a mummy home. Give her anti-sickness injections, IV drip, fluids into her, and go home. So they put everything through me, and no, nothing at all. I just was totally
keeping my hand down.
Yeah, and then the doctors kept opening the door and shouting at me because they couldn't come in the room because of COVID. And they kept saying to me, and I hadn't a clue, I was totally delirious, couldn't even tell you my name, and kept asking me, have you been taking oral medication? And I was like, I haven't had food in 4 days. I haven't drank water in 2, maybe 3 days. I can't keep anything down.
Yeah.
And they just, but anyway, it turned out I had very serious liver damage. So it was flagging up there. So they admitted me into the COVID ward, and I spent 4 lovely days in a room of my own. And they just kept trying to get me to a stage where I could even just get out of the bed and stand up. And that took the full 4 days until at the end I was like, I need to go home. My daughter's at home. She's 9 months old. We've never been apart. They couldn't visit. They couldn't come in. I was a state, been away from her. I knew Brian was at home doing everything, and nobody could help us at that stage because we were still in COVID isolation. So nobody could even come in and help him. And I knew he was getting it tough on his side. So yeah, 4 days. And on the last day, the doctor who admitted me came back to the room, and she says, you know, Susan, you don't know who I am. And I says, I know your eyes, but I can't place you. She says, the doctor had admitted you. And I was like, oh my God, I couldn't even recognize her. And she was like, you were so ill. Why did you not come in earlier? And I says, well, my last pregnancy, you know, it was just, let's get through this. And she says, were you diagnosed with it? No, but I was horrendously ill, and I kept telling them, but they just kept saying it's heartburn. It's, God, they came back with everything that it was, but it was hyperemesis, and I was untreated in the first pregnancy. And yeah, that's part of.
What is the treatment for it then? Whenever you left that day, was the doctor able to give you?
Yeah, they give you.
Was it just the title that you got, or was it?
No, they sent you home, and I was sent home with the very first standard, which is cyclizine. And I was sent home with that, and I think it was maybe 10 days later I was back again, back to square one. I'd gone to the doctor, and they'd said, go to your doctor. If you feel like it isn't working, they can give you alternatives. You can mix a few. Went home a few days later, back to zero again. Give me a different medication that reacted really badly. So back into NA again for another lovely stint. This time I didn't get admitted. There was no bed. So I sat in a lovely chair for 24 hours.
And when you're saying lovely, you really mean, because you've said lovely a few times, lovely room.
The sarcasm really is.
Oh my word, it was just, and the staff, you could just see they were totally helpless. There was any wards totally covered in people. It was like a war scene. They were trying to help me. I couldn't do anything. I couldn't even sit up straight. All I wanted to do was lie down. And I was like sitting in a chair.
Do you see at that time, Susie, when you're saying you're 7 weeks pregnant, and then you talked about 10 days later, and then you're admitted back in, what was going through your head at that time?
At that time, I was thinking to myself, I had become very obsessed with researching the medication. So as soon as anybody gave me medication, I instantly Googled, what is cyclizine? What's that going to do to the baby? And I was already guilting myself because I felt I was failing. Because a woman, pregnancy is what we do. We're women. We glow in pregnancy. And
do we?
Well, I didn't.
No.
I was a walking shell of a woman. I couldn't even stand up straight. I couldn't even look after my little baby daughter. I was totally failing. In my eyes, I was like, I am a failure. And I'm only 7 weeks pregnant, and here's me on my knees, not even able to say my own name because I can't even think straight or talk straight or stand up or anything. So yeah, at that stage I was thinking, what's this medication doing to this child? And I can remember clearly on my first admission saying to the doctors, what is this you're putting into me? And they were going through all the different things that they were putting into my body, and I thought, okay, that's really strong. What's this going to do to the baby? And I remember them saying to me, we're not treating the baby, we're treating you. I thought, oh geez, nobody's looking after the baby here. Nobody cares about this baby. And I, in them 4 days in that room, that was a very dark time. I sat in that room and everything went through my mind. And the doctors were talking about how ill I was and how I was going to come through this. And did I realise how seriously ill I actually was? And no, I knew it was bad. And I remember standing in that room trying to process, okay, I'm going to lose this baby. This baby's a little tiny 7-week-old. How's this baby going to take all this medication, all of this dehydration? I'm not eating, I'm not drinking. This baby can't survive.
So how can it thrive if I'm not being nourished?
Plus this baby's getting ploughed with all this medication. the other thought then when they talked about how ill I was, am I going to die?
Mm-hmm.
Is this going to kill me? I'm not eating, I'm not drinking. How am I going to get through the next 33 weeks and come out the other side and have a healthy baby? So where I already have been suffering with anxiety, every bit amplified in that room. Cyclizine, what's cyclizine? What does that do? And I must have read everything online and everything was so negative. And I just was like, oh my word. Okay, what are we going to deal with if we get to the end of this pregnancy? What are we going to be dealing with? What am I going to have affected this child with?
Mm-hmm.
How much birth defects? How much? What are we looking at here?
So you were doing a lot of research. Is that trying to grab some sense of control because you felt your whole world was out of control? Do you feel, was that what you were doing to trying to
understand
I can research, but then that research brought you down a rabbit hole?
It did. It was like I was risk assessing everything.
Yeah.
You know, with any medication they give me, what does this do? What does that do? How can I take this? Every single thing became obsessive.
Because you were protecting the baby, but it's right that the hospital were there and the doctors and nurses were protecting you. Yeah. And I know at that time that was like, what? Because you're mommy, baby, you're thinking of the unborn child as such. But they're wanting to keep you alive. Yeah. And then, so would you feel, I suppose, just so, as I say, me and Ciara are learning today, so we're going to be asking questions because even somebody listening will be them kind of questions. Do you think that somebody more trained, if somebody was able to come into you and realise that that's the condition you had and they were able to sit with you and who were specialised in that and talk to you a wee bit more about it?
Educate you on it.
Yeah. Absolutely. Did that happen at any point? In your journey? You
would have got gynae doctors coming in. I went to the SWA that was my base for going to A&E. So we got gynae doctors and they were brilliant. Yeah. Very quick to say, you have hyperemesis, you need admitted, you're very unwell, you're dehydrated. And they were very quick off the mark, but because the rest of the health service was on its knees, because you couldn't get past A&E. Yeah. I only got out of A&E the first time because I COVID. So they had to take me out of there and put me into my own second time. So you were always waiting on a gynae doctor. You couldn't get into the gynae ward. You couldn't get near any women doctors. They came in maybe in that 24 hour, I think I seen 2 gynae doctors, one on being admitted and one on leaving. And they were brilliant. They knew what they were talking about.
Right. So because of COVID, otherwise you would have got more access to that education, that somebody sitting with you, maybe talking you through what's going on with you and
possibly.
Right.
I'm not sure. I don't know.
Okay.
I know when I went, I was appointments in Oma and then the SWA was where I give birth and where I went for A&E. When you went across to Oma, although you're within the NHS, it was a totally different story. I never went to A&E in my first pregnancy. Second, I did. But when I went to Oma back to my consultant, it was always, no, it's not. You're just pregnant. This is just pregnancy.
That's just sickness that comes with pregnancy.
Yeah.
So they didn't understand how seriously sick you were.
I think I was so good with the mask that you would not have known how ill I actually was. I was brilliant at walking out, putting makeup on. And even though inside I felt like death warmed up, I was very good at hiding it.
And why? Why did you hide it, Susie?
Because nobody believed you. People couldn't understand how bad and debilitating it actually was. And it was just the responses of, oh, but sure, it is what it is. Get on with it. It'll be over soon. And so much of that, the first pregnancy, not been heard.
Not been seen.
Okay, so the first pregnancy not being heard then was brought into the second and then you put a guard up.
Yeah. I asked.
And a face.
I asked them, can I be midwife-led? The midwives were always amazing. The consultants were amazing too. They were so busy. And you would have went in and I said, can I please be midwife-led? No. You're too high risk. No. You have to see the consultant. And again, the right way, the whole way through to the 40 weeks. You were through heartburn tablets. You were through, but you were, there's a lady down there worse than you. Is what the consultants used to tell me. You see that woman in the waiting room?
So I'm going to bring you back till you were saying when you were 7 weeks pregnant and admitted that you thought you were going to lose your baby and you thought you were going to die. And the doctors actually said you were really ill.
Yeah. that was...
So, you know, there's worse down the corridor then. You were nearly dead. You know, you weren't able to consume anything. Your body needs nourishment. It needs fluids. Yeah. We're all told we have to be drinking to help our water, blah, 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 blah. And also you were trying to nurture a baby in your womb.
Yeah. 1 days on end without eating.
This is Fill Your Cuppa, the Support Together podcast, and we couldn't bring the podcast to you today without the support of Clarity Scanning and Holistic Health. Clarity Scanning and Holistic Health is a private pregnancy, ultrasound and complementary therapy facility. Their mission is to provide a more holistic approach during your pregnancy. Visit clarityoma.com.
It just was so hard when I went across to Oma to get them to understand. I just kept thinking, but your colleagues in Enniskillen are saying this, this and this, and they're really scaring me of how serious this is. But when I speak to you, you're dismissing me, totally dismissing me, telling me it's heartburn, it's everything, you know, migraines, it's, you know, you can't be sick at this stage. That HCG hormones left your body. But it's not morning sickness. I had it, hyperemesis.
Yes.
It's a totally
exactly. It's totally different.
This went to the very, very end, and I spoke to other women in my family to try and understand, because they kept saying about family history.
Yeah.
Obviously, my mum's passed away, so I couldn't speak to her. And I went to aunties, and you started getting the picture coming through from aunts. Oh, I had that 40 years ago. And I remember going to aunts quite early on, and my sisters had always been sick, but never to that extent. And then sort of getting the family picture around all the women in my life, and my word, you know, and I would have said to them in hope in the early days, please tell me, calm down. They keep telling me this will calm. And they went, no, until you birth that placenta, that will not stop. And it didn't.
So how do you survive? How do you look after your mental and emotional well-being? Like, what do you wish had happened, or what do you wish that, I don't know. I know it was COVID. I know all of that. But if there was a mommy standing in her house listening to this podcast who's now feeling immensely unwell, and it's not morning sickness, because it's past beyond, that. It's beyond, exactly. I had morning sickness. I used to carry a bucket around with me, you know, and that passed. That wasn't my forever with my pregnancy.
Yeah.
So how can your emotional and mental well-being be looked after at that point? Holy moly, what was going on in your mind must have been horrific for you and Brian.
It was a very dark time in our family. I hadn't reached out to Support Together. I was just in the darkest place. And I just was trying to exist and get through it. Do what everybody's saying, just get to the end. It'll be over. And I just kept counting down the days, trying in any means to get through the day.
You had said there about get to the end, when you got to the end and when you had Kitty. Yeah. Talk about that.
I thought when I got to the end, that this is all over. You know, back to normal. Get on, start to enjoy. I'd missed so much of Ava's early life being unwell. I thought, great, get Katie here. Let's just enjoy life and live life and have fun. But really what had happened was all had built up to a stage where whenever I contacted Support Together, when Katie was about 4 or 5 months old, where I was so mentally unwell, and hoping, I almost just put a lid on it and thought, you know, just get to the end and it'll be fine. It wasn't.
Lock it up.
I came through so much in the pregnancy. So my life had totally changed. And all that I had taken on, I just didn't process it. I just kept pushing it down. Push it down. It'll go away. Just ignore it. Them bad thoughts, all the bad stuff that happened. Sure, 2 beautiful babies. Got everything I ever wanted. That just, no, inside my head was just, it continued on past giving birth and into postpartum with Katie, and everything just kept going wrong. I had feeding issues with both girls. Ava had a silent reflux, and then Katie had a suspected dairy intolerance, which was so tough on us, you know, both ways. You were getting a lot of comments from maybe health visitors that were making inappropriate comments about the way I was doing things. I was just trying my best.
Yeah.
I didn't have my mummy to guide me. So I was trying to take what she had taught me and make the best of trying to be a mother. I wasn't doing the best of a job at all. Inside my head was a horrible place. The guilt. I was being so hard on myself. Anything that happened in the house that went wrong, if somebody was sick or something, it was my fault.
Yeah.
So I got to the stage where I just didn't leave the house. It was too hard. I had 2 babies under 16 months. Had come through horrific pregnancies. Felt so unheard, unseen, just ignored. But there's beautiful babies there to be enjoyed. And all I wanted to do was enjoy and live and breathe. And I couldn't. Yeah, I couldn't.
No.
Yeah.
And can you understand why you couldn't now, sitting back, sitting here now, looking back at what you went through? You know, you were running on complete empty.
Mm-hmm. Definitely.
First and foremost, where was the encouragement? Where was the nurturing? Where was... Yes, Brian looked after you, but Brian also was looking after
babies.
The babies.
Yeah.
The farm.
Yeah.
Everything else. And... You know, I often talk about when we move house, everybody tells us it's one of the stressful times in your life, and people are always offering their services to look, I try to drive the van, or I'll get this to help you pack. Like what you went through, how could you not at the other end of it? There's no way you were going to walk out of that going, right, I survived that, this is deadly, right, let's get on with it. Life's going to be great. Because there was a lot of scars, emotional and mental scars.
Definitely.
And you did what everybody else would do, and we've all done, is put it in a box and tie it up and think that's... we're not going to we'll just leave that alone. But that is like, as you talk about the wardrobe, that wardrobe's going to burst.
That's only so much it can hold.
Yeah, it's gonna creep up sometime.
I know, and you've talked and you've mentioned your mummy. You know, you didn't have your mummy.
No.
And that's who you want to turn to, or that female that has been in your life, that's been there as you grew up, or somebody that you admire, that you know when you go and ask A, B, and C, that are able to guide you, and have that wise words as such. Yeah. And like, so when you look at that picture of things, you didn't have your mum?
No. She had passed away. She was 3 years passed away when I had Ava. And I just didn't want to talk about it. And I was okay to help everybody else, but with me, no, just get on with it. Just keep going. She's gone. There's nothing we can do about it. We just need to move forward, and just wasn't processing, wasn't dealing with the grief. Just keep going, keep going, keep going. And my mum was amazing with babies. She childminded. She fostered babies. She knew everything about babies.
She reared 5 of you, did she?
There was 5 of us. And she just knew everything there was to know. So I'm grateful the fact that I got to watch her with babies. So I learned a lot in my time at living with home off of her. So that when I had the girls, that I did have a wealth of knowledge from her. But that very quickly just dissipated. All my confidence went, everything. I just wanted her. Yeah. It didn't matter who came to my door or who tried to help me. I just wanted my mummy. Yeah. I just wanted a hug of my mummy, and it didn't matter who came near me. Nobody was going to be able to help me like her. Nobody had the answers but her, and I couldn't have her, and that drove me insane in the end. It really did. Yeah.
And you talked about that you didn't, speak about your mum's death. When your mum passed away, you were surviving. Literally everybody else. You put yourself on the shelf, and then you carry that into yourself being a mother, putting yourself on the shelf. As we talk about many a time, people end up putting themselves even underground, that don't see themselves worthy, and you are worthy. And you talked earlier on that when you became so ill during your pregnancies, you were trying to research and ask your aunts. You didn't have your mum there?
No. Didn't have stories from daddy, stories from my sisters or aunties that could tell me about her, but her first-hand experience, we never had them conversations. There was never any need to. She would have spoke about anything you asked her. She was very honest, but who who knows to think of them things.
Exactly.
Before you have a chance to. So no, I didn't.
So you were trying to get wee jigsaw pieces, trying to puzzle things together to create some sort of understanding. What was going on so you could be understood, to help you get the language that you could go, this is A, B, and C. This is how I'm feeling. Your feelings belong to you. Susie, they're important. You know, nobody can tell you, no, you're just only morning sickness. Only morning sickness is bad enough on its own. Never mind then what you were going through. And I pronounce it again, it's
Hyperemesis Gravidarum.
Hyperemesis.
Yes.
Can't say another word. But hyperemesis.
Yeah.
And we're being educated by yourself, Susie. And that is something we feel is immensely important. Every mommy we learn from. We do not know it all, own it all. There's not a mission we do. We've our experiences that we're able to feed back and to support together. And yourself now, 18 months on down the line, that is something that we want to, you know, from yourself learn. Because we could have a mommy now come to us antenatally. Or a mum who suffered awful with Hyperemesis.
Let's just call it HG.
HG.
I know, but I think it needs to get full. I need to learn it. And this mum, so say for example, you were going on to have your third, you're thinking of what's ahead of me. How can we hold that mummy at that time of her life? So this is where we're going to learn through you, Susie. And I know you're enthusiastic to educate us and to, I know you say to yourself, I don't own all the answers, but you've had the experience. You're sitting here today. You've had an awful hard time. How you've come out of that is, honestly, I remember the first time I met you. Now I'm going to get emotional.
Don't, you'll set me.
Oh, but I do. And you went through, and as you say, that first day you came into us, you felt we mind read you. You know, you go, we had a connection because it's woman to woman, mother to mother. And we talked honest conversations. We shared bits of the darkness and the light, because there's wonderful moments in motherhood.
Yes.
But when you enter the hood, it's at the beginning, it's a wee bit scary. And you have progressed. You have done that yourself, Susie. I know you say Support Together was there.
Yeah.
We were there shoulder to shoulder with you.
Yeah, you supported me every step of the way. I couldn't have done it on my own.
No, and I understand that because it's your own thoughts that you're listening to and what's answering you back.
You girls educated me, walked with me, held my hand, cried with me, laughed with me.
Run the 5K.
Run. Well, I didn't run. Now you done the running. I'm not running.
And you'll never run again.
Never again.
It's buttered clean up.
So much fun. But the charity stepped in and picked me up literally off the floor and held my hand, educated me. And I will carry that through my entire life. When I hit rock bottom and I contacted you that day and I was at my absolute lowest point, it was actually a year to the day from I was first admitted to the hospital with hyperemesis, and I was dreading that anniversary. I knew, and funny, it was Brian's birthday. And I thought to myself, no, do you know what? I'll just bake him a cake. Because I love cooking. I'll bake him a cake. Everything will be fine. Still total denial. I just kept thinking, no, there's nothing wrong with me. I'll bake him a cake and we'll be grand. I had 2 babies in the house. So I took in that morning to baking a full 2-3 tier cake. Iced it, everything. And made him this birthday cake and I just fell apart. I totally fell apart. That anniversary, I think I held it all in and it got as bad as it could possibly get to that point. And I contacted yourself.
You hit the wall.
I hit the wall with an almighty bang. And it took me to the ground and I contacted yourselves and you picked me up and you walked me through and you educated me. And I just want to be able to, I always said to yourselves, I never want my daughters to go through, or any other woman, what I came through, ever. And I need to set an example for my children. They're watching me.
Mm-hmm.
They're imitating me, even at their little 2 and 3 years of age, or imitating me.
You're their role model. Mm-hmm.
I want to see them to see their mummy. It's okay to be in bad form, but this is what we do, and this is how we pick ourselves up, and this is how we move forward.
Yeah.
And I want to teach them so they never ever go to the place I went to, ever. It will, yeah.
And the place you went to, often it is nearly life or death, isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
Emotionally, you're drained, that you feel people are better off without you.
Yeah.
They're better off because I'm bringing everybody down.
Mm-hmm.
I'm stopping growth. I'm stopping people being happy because they're looking at me and I'm so miserable and I'm so. You didn't ask for any of that, Susie. You know that the illness that you were going through, and then never mind then postnatal depression after that. How could you not be? How could postnatal depression, it was sitting beside you there.
Sure.
How, of course it was going to come into your home, into your family. And it was very powerful.
Definitely.
Because when we talk about in sport together, your jug was empty. You didn't, first of all, see even sense of self.
No. I remember the first class I came into, and we kept talking about filling a cup. And I thought, what am I going to put in my cup?
Mm-hmm.
Why would I want to put anything in my cup? It's about the girls. It's about Brian. It's about the home. Me, I don't need anything. I'm fine as I am. And I remember just saying to Gemma, I just need to put on my big girl pants and get on with this. Nothing wrong with me. There's people out there, as the consultant said to me, worse than me. Go and help them. There's nothing wrong with me. I just need to pick myself up a bit here and just shake this off. Couldn't see it. Could not see how bad I was. I can look back now and see how horrific it was. But then, no, I just still kept pushing me away. No, I'm fine. I'll be grand. This is just, I'm just feeling a bit low. But when you educated me and I actually seen what you were saying, geez, that hit me. It really woke me up.
You seen how important you are.
But she walked away and realised she is doing nothing for herself.
Mm-hmm.
She came to support together for her girls.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Because you didn't want your girls being without a mummy, because you were without a mummy.
Yeah.
So you knew how that really felt.
Mm-hmm.
And you presented yourself to the charity because you wanted to be there for the girls.
Yeah.
How is that now? Who are you there for now?
Well, I definitely fill my cup now. I went away, as you've taught me, and I really asked myself some deep questions. Who am I?
Mm-hmm.
I'm now a mummy. I'm a wife. I've, a career. So who am I now? You change so much as a mother. It totally changes you. And it makes you ask a lot of questions very deep within you about what you want to do and what you want to be. So I really had to look, and everything I enjoyed previously, just didn't enjoy that anymore. I didn't want to do any of them things that didn't interest me at all. So yeah, I had to dig deep and go back to my family roots, go back through my wee granny, who was the most amazing baker. And I went back into my cooking properly. Maybe not as ever a big a birthday cake I've ever baked since that day.
Yeah.
In fact, the year after I made a lovely cheesecake.
Lovely.
Never ever going to do that cake again, ever. But yeah, went into my cooking and make time for it. Every Friday morning, I make bread in my house. I love it. I absolutely love it. I get out my flour and my butter, and I use the type of flour that my granny used to make sure, and my aunts have all sent me up lovely bits of granny's like cookware. So I use her tins, and yeah, I'd start making, and you make all these little bits, and that tastes a little bit like childhood. That's a bit like granny's bread.
That's wholesome, isn't it?
So
oh my word!
I make bread of some sort every
What's your dress?
Excuse me.
Every week
I'm free on your dress.
She was free on
Friday morning.
Every Friday morning. So I really get excited about this week's going to be lemon and blueberry. Next week I might do, something different. So I went back into my cooking, and I love cooking for my family. I love it. The other side of things was the gardening. We grew up through gardening with both sides of the family, King gardeners. Worked alongside my sister, my brother-in-law in their garden centre for years. And I loved it. And I had tortured Brian for years about a greenhouse. I think he could take as much of me destroying his garage with pots everywhere, and he finally built me my greenhouse. So
which is amazing. You sent us a video of it. It is stunning.
It is full of all sorts of stuff at the minute. I've totally overwhelmed myself with what I've grew because I can't control the half of it. It's going bonkers. But it's my wee space. And the girls are watching and they're coming in and they're growing sunflowers. They have planted their wee seeds of sunflowers and they're watching them grow. So they help to watch. So it's teaching them. The cooking and the gardening is good for me, but it also works with the family. I can do all of that alongside them and teach them. Like I have such fond memories of being in my granny's kitchen, helping her bake, or been in the garden with, I had a wee auntie called Haiti and another uncle John, and they all gardened. So it takes me back to my childhood, but it lets me have the girls and show and teaching Brian too.
So you went back to your happy time.
I did, yeah.
What, your warm fuzzy?
Yeah.
And I think it's something you actually said to Gemma yesterday. She came in and says, Susie says she's got her warm fuzzy back.
Absolutely.
It was so good chatting to Susie. Join us next week for part 2. This was Fill Your Cuppa, the Support Together podcast with me, Mrs. O, Ciara O'Gowan, my co-hosts Una Leonard and Gemma Cassidy. Brought to you today by Clarity Scanning and Holistic Health and produced by 9874 Creative.